The whole book is about doing the experiences that you want to do now, whether that is giving back, whether that's traveling, whether that's, learning guitar or learning a new language or whatever it is you want to do, like making those things that you like push off until quote unquote someday, like making those happen now.
You're listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with your host, Michael Palmer. Listen each week as inspiring guests share their secrets of success to help you increase your confidence, work smarter, and build a business you love. This episode of The Successful Bookkeeper is brought to you by PureBookkeeping.com, the proven system to grow your bookkeeping business.
Welcome back to the Successful Bookkeeper Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Palmer, and today's show is going to be an experiential one, which you'll understand why I said that more, because our guest is the co-author of The Experiential Billionaire, Build a Life Rich in Experiences and Die with No Regrets. Bridget Hilton, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, it's great to have you, and I'm excited about diving into this, and that's a big title. I mean, Dying with No Regrets sounds fantastic. And before we get into all of it, please let us know a little bit about yourself. How did you end up doing what you're doing today?
Sure. So I'll go into a deeper backstory. I guess I'll just start off right with that. So I grew up in Flint, Michigan, which is, a small blue-collar town. It's a nice place, but at the same time, it's got a lot of problems, as you might know, with addictions and crime and, economic hardships and the water issue. So growing up, I always like kind of had this big dream of like getting out of there. And I didn't judge anyone that was, staying there, but I always had this like love for music and the entertainment industry. And I didn't really know anyone in that world growing up. My entire family works in the auto industry. And so my entire youth was spent basically with like one goal in mind, which was like to get out and to move to California and work in the music industry. So what I ended up doing was like starting off with a lot of like, the $0 to $5 an hour type jobs, which is like, cleaning up trash at music venues and getting coffee for people at radio stations and, selling like band t-shirts in like concert venues all over. And then eventually I landed an internship at Universal Music Group, which is like the largest label in the world. And they had an office at the time in Detroit. So that was really like my first foray into like this world that was like, oh, like it is possible. Like if you have a big dream, like you can achieve it. And so that was when I was 19, and I ended up spending the next like 8 years at Universal. And I moved to LA. I got to work with like all these incredible artists and got to see the rise of people like The Weeknd and Rihanna and Taylor Swift and like all of these people that are now like the biggest stars in the world. I started working with them when I was a teenager. So it was really an interesting time. And, moving to California like changed my life, and it made me feel like anything was possible. And even though I was still like super broke at the time, I mean, I'm not sure if you know, but a lot of these jobs in the music industry pay like next to nothing. So, I had like 5 roommates and like that whole thing. But I was living this like incredible dream. And so even though I wasn't making any money, I was really, really happy. And yeah, I mean, from there, I don't know how deep you want to go in, but from there, I was at my office one day at Universal, and I had seen this video of a woman hearing for the first time, and she was the same age as me. And it really like hit me very, very hard to think about what my life would have looked like if I would have grown up without that passion, without that dream, and without the ability to hear, because music had like changed my entire course of my life. And so from seeing that video, basically I thought of this idea that I could somehow start a company and give people the gift of hearing, like through the proceeds. And that's how I started my first big social enterprise, which is called Listen. So what we do is we sell headphones and speakers, and then we travel around the world and give people hearing.
Wow.
So
that's incredible.
The first business that I had.
Wow. So you're in the, and are you still in the music industry when you transitioned to building Listen?
Yeah. So I ended up quitting like pretty quickly, like after I had the idea, and I just went all in. And that was very naive of me and pretty ignorant to think that I could like compete with the biggest companies in the world selling electronics. But it ended up working. That was in 2012. And what I did was I cashed out my 401k from Universal, which was not a lot of money. It was literally $5,000. And I used that money to buy like a very small amount of inventory and I started the website by myself, and I ended up getting this incredible business partner who now is still my business partner 10 years later, and 11 years, I guess. And yeah, from there, like what we did was we basically put our products like in these niche-y places that you wouldn't think that electronics would be. Like, for example, we were like the first electronics ever in Whole Foods. We were like the #1 product in Birchbox, which is like a subscription company. And we do a lot of like corporate gifting and stuff like that. And like what ended up happening is like we were the first, and we're still the only real like social enterprise in electronics. So we set ourselves apart in that way. And since were founded in 2012, we've given over 50,000 people the gift of hearing around the world. So that's been by far the most incredible experience of my life, was seeing people hear for the first time. It was like a miracle, like over and over again every day for the last 10 years. Like, so incredible.
Wow, it's remarkable. And I'd love to know a little bit more about that. You know, you started this enterprise, you're giving back, and help me understand how you help them get the listening, because I think I missed that in the audio.
Sure. So what we do is we sell like regular consumer products like headphones and speakers, and we sell them at places like, like Amazon and Nordstrom and, all over the country and the world. And then we take the proceeds from selling those products, and we work with this nonprofit called Starkey Hearing Foundation, which has been our partner since 2012. So we travel with them around the world, and they have all of these incredible events set up where people come to the event that have issues with their hearing. And most of these people are hearing for the very first time. So it's super, super, super impactful. And so we're actually the ones that are like fitting these devices, which like 9 out of 10 people that can't hear can hear with a hearing aid. So most of the time it's hearing aids. There's some like body aids and stuff like that, but 9 out of 10 times we're fitting people with hearing aids, which are very, as I'm sure you know, very expensive and not attainable for most of the world. So hearing is actually the #1 disability in the world. And it doesn't get a lot of love because I think, in the US, it's a little bit different where there's programs and there's schools and whatnot. But a lot of places like around the world, if you grow up deaf, there's not a lot of opportunity for you. So it's a huge, huge life changer when you can hear versus not hearing, and especially in developing countries. Mm-hmm. So for us, it was just like, it was unbelievable to be able to have this opportunity and to be able to see, these kids that have never heard before, like instantly be able to like have their life changed. So, wow. Yeah,
that's remarkable.
Pretty fun.
That's remarkable. So you created Listen. Mm-hmm. That was a decade ago, a little more than a decade ago. That's huge. I mean, it's like, whoa, what just happened here? You're working on a record label and your life's changed by a video, and then you create a company that's transforming hearing for people on the planet. I mean, that's pretty big. So
it was amazing. It was a good time.
And then what happened?
So yeah, there's a lot of things that happened, but it's funny. So with startups, there's always like this delta between what people think and what's actually happening. And I'm sure you see this all the time in the media, where there's people that are, quote unquote, worth tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars. But the reality is like, that's not real. That's not like on, in my bank account. So we were like doing all these amazing things and the company was growing, but we were basically giving away all of the money that we were making. And so it was really an interesting time because we were still, struggling a little bit financially. And then this one year I was actually on the Forbes and Inc. 30 under 30. And, all these people come out from the woodwork and they're like, can I borrow some money? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't really have that much money.
Any money. I'm just changing the world here. It's not for me.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm literally giving.
Can you actually give me some money?
Yes, exactly. So in that moment, like, I was like, I don't even know. Like, I loved that I was on those lists and it like meant so much and it was amazing. But I was like, I don't even have like $30 in my bank account right now. So I'm not really sure why I made this list. But so I started joking with my business partner, Joe, at the time. And we would say, and this is like in 2015. So this joke was going for quite a while, but we would tell people that we weren't billionaires because at the time, like Dr. Dre had just sold Beats to Apple. So there was also like this thing in the media where it was like these electronics companies were worth billions of dollars. But so we started joking that we weren't billionaires like Dr. Dre, but we were experiential billionaires because we were traveling around the world, giving our money away, but also having like the most incredible experiences. I mean, we've been to like 40 plus countries. I've been to all 50 states. We've done the 7 wonders of the world. Like there's just all this incredible stuff that happened that I wouldn't trade that for $1 billion like ever. Like there's no way that I would trade that for any amount of money. And so it kind of just became this like, joke between the two of us that we were experiential billionaires, and which ended up being, in 2023, the title of our book. So.
Wow. So you wrote the book based on this joke that you had running.
I mean, it's funny to think the whole thing started as a joke, but, and the book is actually very, very serious. It's not, there's some funny parts to it, of course, but it really is about living your dreams now and not waiting, because a lot of the philanthropic stuff that we've done was the best experience of my life. And like the narrative that we hear a lot is like, okay, focus, make money. And then when you're, in your 70s or whatever, you can donate some money and you can do these, you can give back, you can be philanthropic. But for us, it's like those experiences of giving back were the greatest things we've ever done. And if we would have waited, like, who knows if that would have even happened? Probably not. So it's really, the whole book is about doing the experiences that you want to do now, whether that is giving back, whether that's traveling, whether that's, learning guitar or learning a new language or whatever it is you want to do, like making those things that you like push off until quote unquote someday, like making those happen now.
I get that now. And it's just, it's remarkable. And I know our listeners probably thinking, we're talking to an audience full of bookkeepers, right? And they're listening to you give away all your money. They're like, hey, wait a second, we can help you out here. Not that they wouldn't want you to give away that money, but it is kind of it's such a remarkable story and so, makes so much sense that you've lived this life as a billionaire, would have lived it if they were running around the world giving away all their money. And you sort of did that from the get-go, which is pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I might need some bookkeepers' help, I think. But
You're going to get a lot of calls, I guess. Yeah.
I look forward to the calls.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a journey for sure. And yeah, so after we had that joke around being experiential billionaires, we kind of started taking it a little bit more seriously and looking into like the science and whatnot and the research behind like how new experiences help us live like a better, longer, like more fulfilled life. And then we had this really fun period where we like turned ourselves into experiential guinea pigs, as we like to say. And we started trying like all of these like weird new things. Me and my business partner, Joe, we like studied with like samurais and we went dog sledding with like the winners of the Iditarod and we became beekeepers. And then we went hot air ballooning and learned how to trapeze and perform stand-up comedy and like hunted for our own dinner. Like we were doing all this like crazy, like fun stuff. And then of course we were doing like a lot of the give back stuff as well. It wasn't all selfish, but yeah, from there, like how this kind of transitioned to the book is that we were doing all these like fun things and we really felt like good about it. And like I feel like our mental and physical health was like better than ever, like when we're trying all these new experiences. And then we read about this trait that is called neophilia. And it's actually like proven scientifically if you are open to new experiences that you would live longer. So that really was like the moment where we were like, oh, we should write a book about all of this stuff.
Wow. And so the book, you decided to write about it. And after writing the book, looking back now, what were some surprises or things that came out of the experience of writing the book?
Sure. So part of the research of the book that we did was we actually did one of the biggest surveys of life experiences ever done. We talked to over 20,000 people. So it was like a big, big project. And that was probably the most eye-opening research that we did, just because a lot of these questions in the book and in the survey are, around what are your greatest regrets in your life? What would you still do if you could do anything? What were the most valuable experiences of your life? And I think it was surprising because a lot of it wasn't the big bucket list stuff that people still wanted to do or felt like they regretted not doing. Most people regretted the things that they didn't do versus the things that they did. It was, I think it was around 80% of people said things that they didn't do. So what we did with that answer is that we took that answer and we like tried to help people go down a path of like don't regret things, like do the things that you want to do, and we're going to help you do those. So instead of like, regretting something you didn't do, just make a plan how to do that. The other interesting thing I thought was when we asked people what the most valuable experience of their life was, a third of people said a negative experience, which I guess I wasn't that surprised because in my life, like that, I would have said that as well. Like I went through like a big mental health crisis and I thought that that was the most valuable experience of my life because that made me like who I am and made me super grateful for every day. But it was like, a lot of these things are the most valuable experience of my life was when, my mom got cancer and then I realized like how important she was to me, or when, one of my friends passed away and I realized how life is short. And, we're hearing a lot of things that are very negative, but they turned it into a positive. So there's like a whole chapter in the book about turning these negative experiences into a positive, which I think is like really important because when people hear the word experience, they just think like, oh, travel the world or whatever. But it's much more than that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is remarkable, and just even the things that some of the research that you've been sharing with us, how we think, maybe overthink what is going to make us happy in life, you know, and it's like, oh, you know, I got to travel more. I got to, you know, see the 7 wonders, as you said, and your surveys and the data that came back is like, it's much more within our reach to live an extraordinary life, quite frankly, based on what you're sharing.
Absolutely. And I do want to point out that, like, you know, the title is Experiential Billionaire, but it's not against money in any way. And like, I'm all about making money, but at the same time, like, we are taught our whole life that money is the answer to everything. And it's really not, because at the end of your life, you don't think about your wallet, or you don't, you know, on your tombstone, it's not like, oh, you died with $10 million in the bank. Like I said, you were, you know, a husband or a father, or, you know, you had your own company or charity or whatever. It's not all about like how much money you have. So while we're not saying that money is, that we're not anti that, it is more about that, like, your experiences are the most valuable part of life.
Absolutely. And whilst, you know, money provides maybe some grease to get things moving.
Yeah.
The older I get, the more I realize I can't buy time with money, and I can't buy health for the most part. I can't buy health. You know, we can buy healthier lifestyles and different things like that with money, but there's these things that money can't buy, and time really is the one that always comes up for me, which is if that was all we were chasing. So I think it's, what I'm sensing is a bit of moderation perhaps to be thinking about. And also what I got from the title and your story so far is, you know, it's connected to that time. It's like, don't wait to experience a great life, because you might not have it tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know the excuses. Like, every single one of our friends or family or whoever has the same exact excuses, no matter what stage in life that they're at, no matter what, you know, where they live. It's always like lies, like, oh, I'll do, you know, X after I get promoted, or when the kids are older, or when I'm less busy, or when I retire, or, you know, someday. And it's like, someday isn't actually like a real day on the calendar. So a lot of the book is about putting those quote unquote some days on the calendar and actually following through on these things.
I love it. And such a fantastic idea. We talk often about time blocking, you know, productivity. We're talking about business, you know, getting more done with the time that you have. Often it's a conversation of the work that we have to do, but this is another lens to be thinking about. And it all comes back to the quality of our life, translates into the quality of our work that we do, and the businesses that we run, and the people perhaps that work for us. If we're living our best life in the moment, that's going to translate to other people's lives.
That's so funny. That's exactly what we talk about in the book, because a lot of people might think like doing all of these things is selfish, or, you know, there's so much that you have to do in life, right? Like, you have to do your responsibilities, but it should also be a responsibility of you to follow your own dreams and do your own like experiences that you want to do, because that inspires the other people around you to be their best self and to live their own dreams. Because, like, you know, say that, I don't know if you have kids or not, but say you did, and say, like, you know, if you kept telling them to follow their dreams and whatever, they're probably not going to actually do that unless they're seeing you do that. Like,
That's
you
right.
have to lead by example to like your friends and your family. And
That's right.
and that's what it's really about.
Very, very cool. And it's a conversation recently with one of my mentors, Peter Cook, and business partner, and he's actually a meditation monk. He's a bona fide monk in meditation. Cool. And his master, if you will, I kept trying to think what he calls him, but his I don't think it's a guru, but anyways, the point of the story, I'll get to it eventually, is that his mentor, we were talking about, you know, peace of mind and your own, you know, well-being, and And the quote was, focus first on your own peace, because then you're in a position to provide peace around you, right? And if you're not, then it's that oxygen mask first philosophy.
Yeah, I think that's like the most oversaid thing on earth is like the oxygen mask thing, but it is really so true.
It's
Like,
so true. It applies to everything that we do in our life. It's just like you said with the goals. I mean, I don't know that I've thought about that. I mean, there's being an example for my children, but yeah, one of those is we want them to live their best life and have the potential, work on the foundations of their life that'll have the potential to do, open the doors and have a great life. And so the best way we can do anything is to lead by example, right? And
that's
so
how you create that ripple effect. That's how you live forever. Life is short. Life is very, very short. And I'm reminded of that every single day now. After I wrote this book, I'm like, oh my God, I think about this way too much.
Right.
But how you can like live forever is like create that ripple effect. Like by following your dreams and doing the things that you want to do, you're showing other people that it's okay to do that, and you're giving them permission. And then they do that. And like for example, in my own life, it's like, starting this company that has the give back. The whole company is based around giving back. So I've had all of these people that have come up to me in the last 10 years and said, I started this other thing, I started this charity, I did this, I took this trip. And it's like, it's created this ripple effect that I don't even know how far it goes. But without me doing that, like that wouldn't have happened. And then, I was inspired by someone else that had, like the video that I saw. And like, so that person didn't know that she was going to like affect me. So by doing the things that you want to do, like you're creating this thing that is so much bigger than yourself.
Mm-hmm. It's so true. It's so true. Fantastic thoughts. I mean, I'm reminded of the idea of life. If you're saying you pay too much attention to it, and I guess what popped into my head is, watching the clock, time slows down, and so a good clock to watch is the clock, perhaps, of life. And because you're going to slow it down, it's like pay attention to the time that's ticking by. Best you can use the most of it in the most beneficial way to all of us.
Yeah, I think a lot about time. I mean, in the research of this book, I read several books about how new experiences actually slow down time. So I think that is really interesting. Like if you look at like, maybe you go on a vacation and you do like 5 new things in one day, say like you go like kayaking, and then you go to a new restaurant, or you go to, you take your kids to do something and like they learn something new. It's like, you wouldn't do all of those things in one day. And so those days that you're just at home on your computer and like it's a normal day, like those days blend in, where like the days you're trying new things like don't blend in. And I think that, slowing time down is possible in a way, like mentally in a way, when you're doing new things, which I love that.
Very cool. Very cool. Very interesting concept as well. So let's talk a little bit about, obviously the book. We'll talk about where we can get the book and all of those good things. But I'd love to hear what's in store for you. What do you see? What are you going to be working on next? And how does this connect back to your company, Listen? And I'll have to hear some more about the future. I kind of feel like we could just stay right here and to keep talking about it, because it is a wonderful conversation, one that I know is going to make a difference for our listener. I'd love to know what's in store for you.
Sure. So Listen is still going, but it is not my full-time job. So my full-time, what I work on is this, and this is truly my passion in life is helping other people get the experiences that they want out of life, and to try to avoid end-of-life regrets as much as possible. And I feel like that's my calling now, and I'm so proud of what we did with Listen, and I'm proud that it's still in existence, but it's not my like full-time thing right now. Currently, so the book just came out 2 weeks ago, and so it's very, very new and exciting. And right now, I'm just mostly promoting the book. I'm doing a lot of like corporate workshops where we go in and we do an exercise around figuring out what you really want in life and how to go after it. And then we help the people in the workshop, like basically get to the experiences that they want out of life. So that's been really rewarding. I'm also doing keynote speaking, which has been a new, fun, really exciting thing in my life. I'm super grateful to be able to do that and just be able to share my story from a stage. So that's been really, really fun. And I hope to continue doing that for a while. So I don't really see anything changing as far as that for a while. So I'm not sure how long it'll last, but I'm ready for the ride, and I'm all in on Experiential Billionaire.
Very cool. Well, it's remarkable. I mean, there's lots of stories you have to tell, that's for sure, and such great stories. So I think you found the calling that will make a massive difference in the rest of the world. And just even that story of working in workshops for organizations, helping people. We had one of your friends on the show, Brittany Hodak here, and
yeah, Brittany actually. So we met when we were really young in the music industry. So I've known her for a very long time, and we've had a very similar career. As far as like we were in music, and then we were entrepreneurs, and then now we're speaking and writing, and her book came out earlier this year. So it's fun to see friends, grow up over time and like see these similarities in life.
Yes. And so that's where I was trying to connect that back, whereas she was talking about how the experience life that we live in, there's no goods or services, it's experiences. And so when you have an organization of people that are, living their best life, that's going to translate again back to the organization, the rest of the people in that organization, and also all the stakeholders, customers that are involved. So the work that you're doing for employees of companies and organizations to help them live their best life and have no regrets, I mean, it must be a pretty remarkable transformation, and I would say a little different than what you would expect in a corporate retreat, right? It's like some of these people might say, I'm out of here. I want to go do something I really love. Bye.
Yeah, it's very interesting, I will say. Not everyone is really prepared to talk about, life and death, especially in the corporate environment. However, I will say it's overwhelmingly positive, and people really they really do bond with their coworkers. And there's so much research right now around how belonging and worker engagement is what keeps people at their organization. And there's so many problems in the world right now with people leaving their job and whatnot. And that's how you get people to stay, is you do exercises like this. You help them bond with their coworkers. They have this accountability partner at work where you're like, okay, I'm going to do this goal, help me. And we've been seeing really incredible results, and I'm super proud of it. And I love getting messages from companies or from individuals saying I just completed this goal, and I just did this trip that I never thought I would do, or I just learned how to speak Spanish, or whatever their thing that they want to do is. And it's just been it's been really special.
Very cool. Very, very cool. I remember I worked for Salesforce.com quite a few years ago now, but I remember the very first, went to San Francisco for our employee kickoffs. We spent 3 weeks training and all that good stuff. And they would have these big, massive, all hands on deck meetings. And I remember Mark Benioff, who is the co-founder of Salesforce, remarkable leader and business person. And he said, there's people in this audience don't want to be here. And, that's okay. Maybe this is just the one, maybe we're just part of the stepping stone to wherever you are going to be or want to end up being, and do whatever you can here to do the best work that you can, and do a lot of meditation to figure out what the next step is for you. Because if you're here, we want you here. And if you want to be somewhere else, well, we want to help you find that way there. And it was really cool because I felt like he was talking to me, even at the very beginning of Salesforce. It's not where I wanted to be. It's not the trajectory I was going, but it actually was one of the most beneficial stepping stones to doing the work that I ended up doing next off. And so, it's kind of that similar theme as the energy of being able to help people wherever they're at. But they're human beings. So helping them discover what's important to them and how they'll make an impact or a difference in the world and use their life in the best possible way is only going to lead to good things, whether they're with you or somewhere else. While they're there, likely they're going to do the best that they possibly can and make the difference internally.
I love that attitude that Mark has. That's really cool. I didn't know that about him. But yeah, I mean, that's really our philosophy. And it's funny. Some people will be like, will this make my employees quit their job? And I'm like, no, it will make them love their job, because now they're like being helped around these like personal goals, and they're having their friends at work help them. And everyone is like being more, they feel like they belong somewhere. And yeah, so I love that philosophy.
It is cool. And you know what? I spent 3 years there, and it was a fantastic time. And it was a culture that was a high performance culture. I enjoyed every moment of it, and yet knew that I was headed in other places. But that was the thing. It was like that kind of culture enables people to do the best that they can while they're there. And you don't want to have everybody stay in an organization. You want the people who really want to be there and create that environment, I think. So I think I love what you're doing with it. It's definitely, I think, needed, like, as you've said, it's needed and will make a massive difference. And, it's one of those books that I think makes a great gift. I mean, Brittany and your book, Bridget, they're great books to gift to our listener as a bookkeeper. Their clients are business owners, right? These are two great books that would be great gifts. If you're thinking about gifting over the holidays or at any time to your clients, what a way to stand out. Give one of these books or both of these books to your best clients or all of your clients, because it will likely make a difference not only in their life, but also perhaps the staff of their businesses' lives as well. So different books, but certainly very much connected in terms of building cultures and being remarkable. And so I think that's be a great way to thank both Bridget and Brittany for being on the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we also actually have a card deck that's called Treasure Maps, and that's based around the exercises in the book. And we wanted to have a very giftable item in addition to the book, because not everybody has time to read, but maybe everyone has time to do one card a day where they have like one exercise a day. So there's a couple different options for people.
Very cool. And maybe on that, where's the best resources if our listener wants to learn more about you, your book, and the work that you're doing? What's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So my website is just my name. It's bridgethilton.com. And our website for the book and for the brand is experientialbillionaire.com. If you'd like to check out the book, the card deck, that's also where there's more information about our workshops and our keynote speaking if you would like to meet in real life. So thank you guys so much, and I really look forward to hearing from you.
The pleasure has been all of ours, Bridget, and I'm really excited to get a copy of the book myself and get reading, and this has been just an absolute refreshing conversation. Thank you for the great work that you do in the world, the difference that you're making, and for generously coming on the show and sharing all of it with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
And with that, we wrap another episode of the Successful Bookkeeper podcast. To learn more about today's wonderful guest and to get access to all sorts of valuable free business building resources, you can go to thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Until next time, goodbye.
You've been listening to The Successful Bookkeeper with Michael Palmer. For more information and to download the resources mentioned in this episode, please visit us at thesuccessfulbookkeeper.com. Thank you for listening.